matchup between President Biden and former President Trump plays out, in some key swing states, Democratic candidates are leading even as Biden is trailing Trump. We're going to dig into that a little bit here. Let's bring in Lauren Wright. She's an associate research scholar and lecturer in politics and public affairs at Princeton. We are very pleased that you could be here on this Memorial Day weekend to talk about this with us. I want to talk about the impact that Trump may be having on these down ticket races, on these Senate races across the country. But let's start sort of with a quick look at some of the numbers. Siena College poll, New York Times poll released just last week, found that these Democratic Senate candidates, we're talking about races like Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, they're leading the Republican opponents, and yet they're also running ahead of President Biden. Your take on that, what that means on Biden's impact on these down ticket races?
Well, thanks, Molly. I think you set it up so nicely. Both candidates are a drag on these Senate races because they're very controversial to swing voters who are very mad at Biden over the economy, over immigration, over crime, and they're still not back with Trump from their vote in 2016 because, of course, he lost in 2020 and he's continued to alienate some swing voters with his positions on abortion and all of this legal trouble and making the election about himself. So really, it's a tough year to run statewide if you're a Republican or a Democrat. They're both a drag on these races.
When we look at Biden, you take a state like Pennsylvania. I've spent a lot of time covering politics there. Moderates tend to do fairly well in Pennsylvania, even Democratic moderates that have some of those positions
right.
That you need to have in the rural parts of Pennsylvania. Is Biden's effort to appease some of the left wing of his party, is that what is getting him in states like Pennsylvania and some of these battleground states?
It's probably less likely that than his ability to bring over some moderate Republicans that are frankly not fully on board with Trump. And so what tends to happen in these races is Republicans, and this is happening right now in my state of New Jersey, it happens all the time in my home state of California. People assume that because it's a left-leaning state, Republicans will nominate someone moderate. They often don't. And this year, there's a lot of Republican parties who are nominating Trump-aligned candidates who are more extreme than the state is. And so in Pennsylvania, that's a state where a process like this would play out. And if it's a sort of a right-leaning conservative Democrat, they do quite well in those states.
It's kind of mirroring sort of what you're saying when we talk about, say, New Jersey, for instance, where Republicans would really like to snag that Menendez seat that's coming up.
Yeah.
Is that where the Trump hurt comes in? And which one, really, just broadly speaking, is it Trump or Biden that is hurting these down-ticket races more for their party?
Well, that's hard to say. I mean, frankly, Biden is very unpopular among a lot of voters right now because on all the issues that they care about, he is behind Trump. And those are issues where Republicans tend to have a natural advantage over economy, over issues like inflation, over issues like immigration, crime, education. And so people are very angry at Biden. I don't think that should be underestimated. But in New Jersey, we have one of these exact situations playing out. We have a Trump ally, Serrano, running against Bastaw, who's more of a moderate Republican. And that primary is on June 4th. And really, depending which of them gets the nomination, we'll see how close they can get to the Democrats. I don't think New Jersey is going to be part of the process that gives Republicans back the Senate. But, a few years ago, we had a gubernatorial race here, and the Republican won 48% of the vote, Jack Ciattarelli. So it's not a foregone conclusion, but New Jersey's a tough one.
That is a great little window you're giving us there. Speaking of windows, I covered the Susan Collins race when she won Senate in 2020. And she was one of those that really, that split ticket was big up there. She won, and yet President Biden also carried that state by about 9 points, beating Trump. But she held her seat. Are you seeing any race like that across the country where the incumbent is just kind of a standalone character and may not be hurt either way by whoever's at the top of the ticket?
Well, I think Hogan in Maryland, I think that's a really exciting opportunity for Republicans. A lot of people in that left-leaning state like him and know him. So that could be a pickup. But then you have states like Arizona where Carrie Lake is still denying the 2020 election. She'll very likely be the nominee. And that's maybe a state that Democrats will end up getting, and Republicans in any other election year with any other candidate at the top of the ticket and in the Senate place should win that state.
All right, just a few more months to watch it all play out. Thank you, Lauren Wright, for giving us a little window and your insights. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.